Welcome to the Northpoint Guys podcast. My name is Michael Scott.
And my name is Josiah Smith. And we have a great podcast lined up for you today. We're meeting with the one and only Mr. Adam Clark.
Oh
So,
man,
Adam, yeah,
I'm
come on. Woo, woo,
excited.
woo,
How's it
woo.
going?
So, Adam, thanks for taking time out of your actually, it is a very busy schedule as of late
Yeah.
to join us on here and share a little bit of your experience. Um, so, Adam, share a little bit about what you're doing this summer, and then we'll zoom out
hmm
and back up into your life story a little bit.
I'm interning in Wichita, Kansas at Hope Church. I'm interning under his name is Bobby Massey. He's the lead pastor here. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm just getting ministry experience, with a very amazing pastor who I
Shout out to
love.
Bobby.
He
Hmm.
Shout out to Bobby for Northpoint. Um, uh, and yeah, just I'm under his wing. This summer, he's been mentoring me, teaching me a lot about ministry, and yeah, I've got to do a lot of really cool stuff. Nice. Now let's talk real quick about the internship process.
Yes.
We know that Adam's a student at Northpoint, or it could be assumed, but there's a certain time in the Northpoint process that a student does an internship and all that. So, Adam, real quick, tell us like what year you're in, or even where you're from, because I want people to get the full picture of this. The
Hmm.
fact that you're interning in Kansas,
Hmm.
that's you're not from there. So, talk a
No.
little bit about who you are and year and where you're from.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Middletown, Connecticut. Uh, I was raised there, and I live with my dad back in Connecticut whenever I'm not at school. Um, and I'm a senior at North Point. Well, I'm going to be a senior. Um, and I found out about this through Tanner, um, and that's how I got here. Um, it's not it's not a long story. It's pretty simple, but yeah, that's how I got here.
Yeah. And so for those not familiar with this process at North Point, the way that looks is when a student comes in their freshman year, freshman all the way to their senior, they're involved in a program called Christian Service. And so during their freshman year, they're getting plugged into a church, they're learning about opportunities. And then sophomore and junior year, all the sophomores and all the juniors have to require or have to submit a certain number of Christian service hours. This is where they're volunteering at a church, they're a part of events and things like that. And then between their junior and senior year that summer, they complete their senior internship. And so that is
Mhm.
exactly what Adam is doing this summer. He completed his senior internship. And then, of course, you've got your senior year, and then you graduate.
Yeah,
So you're
and I'm
you're
out of
getting
here.
pretty close to that. Yeah. So, Adam, real quick, I want to dive back into the internship stuff in a little bit, but tell us, like, how did you come to know Jesus, one, and then how did
Mhm.
you wind up at North Point?
Yeah, so I I would say that I grew up in church. Um, my mom uh, made it a principle to always bring my brother and I to church every Sunday. Um, and when I was little, I accepted Jesus into my heart. I didn't really know what that meant. I kind of just prayed the the sinner's prayer or whatever it's called. And then so I continued going to church and stuff, and I never really took it seriously until high school. I would say my senior year, like the summer going into my senior year of high school, is when I really got saved. But that's when I really started diving into um, the Word. I started really diving into the things of God. I got baptized that summer by my youth pastor, who was actually an alumni from North Point. And he's how I found out about North Point. His name is Richard Brooks. Um, him and his wife Tori were youth pastors at my church from when I was, I think, in seventh grade, and then they left that summer to go be missionaries in Belgium, um, and they are currently itinerating. But yeah, so I found out about North Point through them, and then my brother Jeffrey came to North Point. Um, he's an alumni, and then I followed suit and came here myself. So um, it's been a crazy story. There's a lot that happened leading up to it. Um, I tried running from it, but the Lord brought me here. The Lord kept me from running away from it, and so
Yeah.
that's how I got to North Point.
That seems to be a common Bible college story, I think.
Yeah.
We're all Jonahs in some way or another.
Hmm. Yes.
So cool. And so again, right prior to your senior year, here you are in your senior internship. You're out in
Hmm.
Kansas. Have you ever been to Kansas prior to the internship?
No, I think this is the farthest that I've been, like in the States. This
Okay,
is the farthest that I've been from home.
that's
So
awesome.
you were talking about how you heard about this from Tanner, but why
Hmm.
did you choose to go all the way to Kansas for your internship rather than staying in New England? Because like you're from the Northeast, and so the easy answer would have been to go back to a church you're familiar with or a church in the
Hmm.
area. But and Pastor Josiah and I have talked to you before. Like we're very proud that you made this decision. So why did you decide to go all the way out to the Midwest?
Um, I think just because it's a new experience. It's not at all what I'm used to, um, which was also a big thing that almost kept me from going. I was just really scared. Um, but I thought it would be a really awesome opportunity to, make connections, meet new people, experience a place that I'm not used to. And, you know, I owe a big part of it to you guys, for being so encouraging throughout the whole process of like, not being not letting my fear keep me from stepping into something that God had for me. And God has taught me a lot in my time here. And just taking that step of faith really really paid off, and I'm very thankful that I came. You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
we're
And
proud. We're proud of you, man. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. And our
Thank you.
viewers and listeners may not know, but I spent 9 years as a youth and executive pastor in Kansas, actually there
Hmm.
in Wichita at a different church in town. And then met my wife there. And first of all, let me say that everyone who hasn't been to Wichita probably thinks it's some tiny town. I mean, the Wichita area is like
Oh.
500,000 people. I mean,
Hmm.
to give you some perspective, I think there's 4 or 5 Chick-fil-A's there now. So, like, that
I got no clue.
that
That's
that
really how
tells
you
you
measure a city's greatness, right?
Yeah.
that's how I
How many
measure a city.
Chick-fil-A's
How
they
many
got?
Chick-fil-A's do you have? And so, like, obviously, it's a place that's close to my heart, and I still have family there. So for you to go there, it's exciting and awesome. And I'm really curious because I have thoughts on this too. But as somebody who grew up in New England, what what were you kind of guessing would be, you know, the feel of the Midwest, or like what were you kind of anticipating? And then now that you've been there and are almost done, like what was it like? How was ministry different in Kansas versus Connecticut?
Mm. Yeah. A lot more relational here that I've
Hmm.
that I've experienced.
Hmm.
Um, there are very relational pastors, in New England, but people I've noticed that people here just in general in Kansas are just a lot nicer and care more about, building relationships with people. Um, and I learned a lot of that, especially from Bobby. He is one of the most relational people that I've ever met. And you know, I was ex- I was expecting it to be a much different experience than New England because New England people aren't the nicest there, and not everybody, but a lot of
As a
people.
stereotype,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
stereotypes exist for a
Um,
reason, though.
um, but yeah, just learning more about how to be relational with people. That's something I came in expecting, and it's what I got. Um, I also came in expecting it to be really hot, um, and it was like extremely hot and humid.
Did not
Um,
disappoint.
like it was a huge change. It was a huge change. Like my allergies were kicking my butt for the first 2 weeks that I was here.
Hmm.
It sucked, but it I'm used to it now. So, um, but yeah, I definitely came in expecting those things, and it delivered.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you probably had some opportunities that most other interns, I would say probably all the other interns out there right now probably didn't experience what you got to experience, where like within the first couple of weeks you had breakfast with the district superintendent and just
Hmm.
made connections like that. And I think
Yeah.
that's invaluable.
Yeah. The superintendent here is amazing. We only met one time so far, like in my time here. Um, but that one time that we got to meet up, he poured so much wisdom into me
Mm.
and so many valuable lessons of ministry. That you know, I you don't. There's some things that you can't learn in a classroom. You know
Yeah.
that you that you have to immerse yourself in real ministry and sitting under people like the superintendent here. I'm blanking on his name. Um,
Terry Yancey.
Terry Yancey, yes. Under people like him, and and really learning the raw reality of ministry. Um, so, yeah.
That's awesome. So we know you've had breakfast with Dr. Terry Yancey and
Hmm.
that your pastor's super relational. What are some of the things day to day, maybe, and then day to day, but then even some highlights of your summer as you are only 1 week away from completing your internship.
Hmm.
So you might do something over the next week, but most of the stuff you've already done. So tell us a little bit about what you've done this summer.
Man. Um,
It's like nothing. I have
so
not done it.
yeah, I've done nothing in my time here. I just came here and sat at the church all day.
No, I've seen your hour logs. You've done a lot.
um, I guess some of the bigger stuff that I've done is um, I preached a sermon for youth group that went really well. I I got to lead communion on a Sunday morning, which was
That's
really
awesome.
cool. That actually went a lot better than I thought it was going to. I got to lead worship this past Sunday, um, which was awesome. That was a good experience. Got to do some really random stuff that I didn't know you had to do. Um, like like one of the things that I had to do was I had to fix a vacuum, which really sucked. Like that took me like 2.5 hours
The
because
goal
I
is
see
that
what
it
you
will
did there.
suck. The
I
the
see, I
goal
see
is
what you
that
did
it
there.
will. Yeah.
The vacuum cleaner sucks. It's doing its job well, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So
All right, dad jokes
that was
over.
an experience. I got to not like do a wedding, but be a part of a wedding and like sit in on one, and see like how those are run. Um, I got to sit in on like pastoral counseling and marriage counseling, stuff like that. Um, I did camp for 2 weeks, um, and a lot of the time I'm usually just at the church, being available for all if the pastors need me to do something. Um, a lot of that from day to day, that's what I'm doing. Um, and then also meeting with Bobby every Thursday and um, him mentoring me and know leading me and stuff like that. So we have to do
That's
some pretty
awesome.
cool stuff. That's what I'm remembering off the top of my head. I've done other stuff, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm remembering right now.
So, I mean, obviously, I'm expecting a certain answer to this question, but we can just talk about it. Like, so if you would have gone into ministry right after this spring, you didn't do any
Hmm.
internship, you just went right into ministry versus having experienced this internship now and going into ministry, well, it'll be next year now probably, but like,
Yeah.
what would the difference have been for you, you think?
I think the difference would have been like I would have gotten the the reality check a lot later, um, about
Hmm.
what it's really like to be in ministry. Because being under Pastor Bobby, and I know it's going to differ from church to church, but seeing all the things that he does on a day to day basis, and even the stuff that the other pastors do, um, if I would have gone into ministry without having an experience like this, I wouldn't have seen the reality of ministry, the reality of
Hmm.
like I can't do this on my own. I am not able to do that. I can't. I would have gone into it thinking that it was going to be easy. That it was going to be a walk in the park. But having this experience, I see the real stress of it, um, the work that goes into it. And it's kind of brought me to a point where I have to acknowledge that I can't do it on my own. I've like I am I don't want to say I'm terrified to be a pastor, but like it does it's scary, like knowing the weight of the responsibility, the eternal um responsibility of being a pastor. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what kind of pastor, but just being a pastor in general, having that influence. Um there's so much weight to that, so much responsibility. And if I didn't have this experience, I would have gone into ministry not knowing that. And so, yeah, I am beyond
Yeah.
grateful that I had this and, got that reality check.
Yeah.
I needed it. And I think everyone who is going into ministry should have that experience before, they're thrown to the wolves. And so, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, and and it's not to say that you can't go straight into ministry. The
Hmm.
Lord has called some to do that, but I think that is an important thing to discuss for people to hear.
Yeah.
We have had some students, they would come their freshman year and they leave halfway through and just say, "I'm just going straight into ministry." And
Hmm.
again, that's okay. And for those who would not want to do an internship, or maybe they go, well, anyway, who may not do an internship, um, you do miss out on something, I think, because
Yeah.
it's kind of like trying to get into the military and just thinking it's going to be a cakewalk, but then you go to boot camp and
Hmm.
realize, oh, this is actually like it's made to train me for the real thing. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, so I mean, I'm glad you're having the experience for sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask, what are some of your favorite things, favorite restaurants, favorite foods you've eaten there in Kansas?
Man, um, that's a tough question. Um,
Tough because it's so good, or tough because it's so bad?
so good.
Oh, okay, all
Um,
right, all right.
yeah. Uh, I think my my favorite place that I've been to so far, um, is a place called McAllister's. Um, they
My
the
dude, so good.
the food there is phenomenal, and the sweet tea is unreal. The
That's right.
sweet tea is unreal.
Now, would this be a similar McAllister's to what we experienced back in college,
Yeah, it's
Springfield?
it's a chain. They're just not in
Same
the
chain.
Northeast.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
when when I go back to the Midwest, I always go to McAllister's. So,
Yeah, McAllister's is
Nice.
good.
have you had
Spangles.
Andy's?
I had Andy's. Yes.
Come on, that'll change your
Um,
life. That'll change
so
your life.
I will say Andy's kind of disappointed me a bit,
No.
because no, 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 no. Hear me
You
out. Hear me
you
out.
you
So,
apparently are doing it wrong. That's
so
This is like my friend
I
who tells me Chick-fil-A isn't good. I can't believe it. I can't
nah.
believe it.
so I wanted a chocolate custard with peanut butter cups in it.
Yeah.
And they said they couldn't do that. And so what they gave me was a thing of chocolate ice cream and then a cup of Reese's peanut butter cups. Um, and
Mm.
but the ice cream was too solid. Like I couldn't even pierce the top that well because it was just so frozen solid, and I couldn't really enjoy it altogether because they didn't want to put the peanut butter cups in it, and I was
Okay.
really upset.
Listen,
That
on
that
behalf
is
of
not a
all
normal experience.
Andes,
Yeah.
yeah, we want to apologize. This was someone that just started, or they were just about to
Yeah.
quit. Something was off. That wasn't.
Adam, in in this next week, go back to Andy's and
Hmm.
I will pay for it. So
Wow. You've got
and
this recorded, so
Oh,
it's
yeah,
gonna happen.
and shoot me a text. I will tell you some possible things to order. I
okay.
have an idea for one that I think you'll like, and I will pay for
Okay.
it.
Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Really, I think you can tell how Christian a place is by how many Chick-fil-A's are there, and maybe
Mhm.
Andy's too. Like if there are Andy's who
Yeah.
know, like probably most people here are going to heaven. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I also had Freddy's. Freddy's was kind of
Freddy's.
disappointing. The fries were really wimpy. Like the fries are very thin
Yeah.
and they were cold when I had them. So it was just not
Yeah.
a great
Freddy's was
experience.
never my
But
favorite, but Freddy started in Wichita, so yeah.
yeah, but
So did
their custard
White
was
Castle. White Castle started in
Really?
Wichita, and
I
then
thought it was an
Pizza Hut
Indiana thing.
started in Wichita.
All
So
right.
Pizza
Mhm.
Hut and White Castle. Yeah.
Now I've not been
Yep.
to Wichita, but I did go to Kansas City for the first time the other week, and Michael Scott recommended some barbecue. I guess it was pretty good. So have you experienced the
Mm.
barbecue in
Oh
Wichita? Is
my
that
gosh.
similar to
Have
Kansas
I
City, right?
experienced barbecue? Um, yeah. So for the wedding that I helped out with, um, they had a barbecue after the like after the rehearsal. Um, and that was the best barbecue I've ever had in my life.
All right. All
It
right.
was unreal. It was unreal.
But I will say Wichita barbecue doesn't even compare to Kansas City. It's good, but it doesn't compare.
Okay.
All right. So you're gonna have to drive. I don't actually know the geography of it,
Go to
wherever
Kansas
it
City.
is,
I
but
will pay for your
The 3 hour drive to Kansas City.
worth it.
so Adam, switching back here to internship for one or two more questions. Um,
Hmm.
you have classmates who have not yet done their internship, and they're going to have the decision this next summer as to what they're going to do, where they're going to go.
Hmm.
Um, and again, we did encourage you to, get a new experience in a different place. And that's what I would say
Yeah.
just about everyone I was actually had another student in my office today. We were talking about internships. That's part of my job here is overseeing internships. So,
Hmm.
what would you say to one of your classmates who is going to be interning next year? What kind of advice are you going to give them as one who has done it and is starting his senior year now?
Yeah. Don't do what's comfortable. Um, I mean, obviously, if you genuinely feel the Lord is leading you to somewhere that you know, somewhere that, and if there's an opportunity there, if you feel the Lord is leading you there, go there. But I would definitely encourage someone if there is an opportunity to go somewhere else, um, whether someone gives you that opportunity or you reach out to people and make that opportunity, definitely take it. Um, I learned a lot here. I learned a lot more here than I feel I would have learned in a lot of other places. Um, and plus, it never hurts to experience a new area, to experience new people and a different culture of people who are not what you're used to. And yeah, I would definitely encourage anyone who maybe even on the fence of like whether they stay local or they go somewhere. I would definitely encourage them to take that step of faith and go somewhere that they're not used to, that they haven't been to before, um, because you never know what God is going to do, um,
Yeah,
through that
yeah.
obedience and through that opportunity.
What I like to think, Adam, too, that like what you've done this summer is you have just expanded your horizons as to like what it looks like to do ministry, what the possibilities are. For some people who come into Bible college, they may have only been to one church in their life. They sat
Hmm.
under one pastor. Now, others
Yeah.
have had more, varied experience than that. But for that person who is going to be a pastor and they've sat under one pastor and been to one church their whole life, we don't have to guess what their ministry is going to be like. It's going to be like whoever they sat under, likely because that's all they've seen.
Hmm.
So I think if you can get a varied experience and experience different kinds of churches, different types of ministries, and let the Lord shape you then and draw from those experiences, and then
Yeah.
lead you in what kind of ministry you're going to lead. Uh, but I think it just expands the possibilities for sure. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Well, I lost my AirPod.
I saw that just fall
Just
out.
fell right out of my ear. So, um, you have any other questions, Mike Scott? Otherwise, we'll wrap this
No,
thing up.
I mean, Adam, we're proud of you. We're excited for you. I'm glad it was a great experience that you're learning a lot. Like you said, I mean, you really couldn't have picked a better person to serve under and learn under for this season, especially
Hmm.
wanting to learn how to do relational ministry. Bobby Massey is one of the best. And
Yeah.
so whenever, I knew that church was a possibility for you, like I knew you would be well taken care of, that you would learn well. So we're proud of you,
Yeah.
but we're also excited to have you back here.
We
Yeah. I'm,
are.
I'm excited to come back. Um, it's gonna be really sad leaving. Um, but I'm excited to come back and see my friends again and see my family. So
Yep.
yeah,
And hey, you can always fly back. So
There you go.
yeah.
I do that to see family. So it's very much an option.
Yeah, I promised people here that I'd come visit, so I got to keep that. I got to
Yeah,
keep
and
that promise.
the cool thing, Adam, is like you never know how God's going to use that throughout the rest of your life.
Hmm.
When I was in college, I interned at a church kind of on a whim. A guy from Pennsylvania came in, and I was from Pennsylvania, so I'm like, we'll have lunch at least. And it ended up being exposed to this church. I ended up then planting a church through that church, through their network, and
Hmm.
still one of my favorite churches. And so it's really cool how God will use this experience probably for the rest
Yeah.
of your life. Um, so you never underestimate the connections you make, the friendships you make, experiences that
Hmm.
you have. Um,
Exactly.
so it's awesome. It's awesome. And this fall, you'll be taking the theology of work class, which would be fun as well. We'll process some of that and um, head into your senior year. So,
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, thanks again for your time, man. Appreciate you
Thank you guys.
hopping on Zoom here for this podcast. And I'm not even going to try it. Michael Scott, why don't you tell us again? Where do people go to hear these podcasts?
Yeah. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Northpoint Guys podcast. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, all those great places, Northpoint Bible College, or I just spit a little bit, or specifically the Northpoint Guys on Instagram, and also on our YouTube page, Northpoint Bible College. Go back and watch some old episodes, or you can listen to us on Spotify. Check out some old episodes as well. And we're so glad you tuned in, and we'll see you next time.